Welcome to RFI's Banking Uncovered, the podcast going behind the industry PR, the media spin, the product awards, and the investor reports to look at what's really going on in the customer data, and to ask global thought leaders about their thoughts and views on the future of banking and payments.
Hi, and thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Donohue, the founder of iSky Research, and more recently the managing director of iSky at RFI, and your host for today's podcast of Banking Uncovered. And with me, it's a pleasure to have Tony Hildesheim here from Redwood Credit Union. Tony is the Chief Administrative Officer and Executive Vice President at Redwood Credit Union.
Indeed.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. So just before we jump into discussing the work that Redwood does, can you tell us a little bit about Redwood, based here in Northern California,
Sure.
what your focus is as a business and what you're doing at Redwood?
Yeah, so we're a full service credit union, meaning any service that you can think a credit union could do, we do, and then some. So we have an insurance agency, for example. We do investments. We have our own investment advisors in-house. We also have an auto lot, which is a little bit unique for credit unions. In fact, I don't think there are any other credit unions that have an auto lot where we actually sell cars or broker cars for our members and non-members for that matter. And everything we do is really about the member experience. It's about providing that service that's unique to the member in a way that they can't get other places, like car. I mean, how many of us go buy a car? It's a horrible experience for the most part. We think we can do a better job of providing that transportation to somebody without them having to go through the hassle of haggling for a price, for instance. So we don't do it necessarily because it's profitable. We do it because it's the right thing to do for our members. But Redwood Credit Union is the largest financial institution in the North Bay, by far, actually. And we serve about 500,000 members from San Francisco up to the Mendocino County in Northern California, north of San Francisco, all the way east to Napa. And we're very proud of this work we do. And more importantly, we're very focused on making sure our members have their needs met.
So on that point, coming into Redwood today, I noticed you've got a lot of awards out in the lobby area there, talking in particular about the community focus and community support that Redwood gives. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've seen change, particularly in the last 5 years, around being a community-focused organization like Redwood?
Yeah, so we've been here for about 75 years, or actually more than 76 now. And from the very beginning, we started out focused on community. Now, albeit we started as a credit union specifically for county employees. And then when, things changed, we were allowed to become a community chartered credit union. We started focusing on the communities of Sonoma County and expanded into 8 other counties north of San Francisco. But, really, when you think about community for us, it's always been there. And it really came to fruition in 2017. And maybe even 2015, there were fires in Northern California, first in Lake County, where we stepped up and helped raise funds for victims of the fire. And in 2017, 5,000 some odd houses burned down, about 7,000 total structures burned down in Santa Rosa. It was the largest wildfire in the history of California at that point. And Redwood Credit Union stepped up with Mike McGuire, a senator, and the Press Democrat, a local newspaper, to raise funds to help victims of the fire. We ended up raising $32 million with donors from 40 countries all around the world, really, people stepping up to help members. More importantly, we gave away $32 million. So Redwood Credit Union bore the expense of that fundraiser. And we were able to distribute those funds within months after the fire, which is unprecedented at that time and still today. So it was at that moment that I think the community understood our commitment to them. Not one of our branches was dark during that period. We had people running around with generators. We had our staff who showed up during the fire. They got their family out of harm's way. Many of our staff had houses that were in the path of the fire. They took their families, got them to shelter, and then showed up here because they were committed to the work we do for our members. And I think that's, when you look back on it, to be very, very honest with you, the thing that most amazed me is our people. Our people were so committed to serving our communities, that they showed up, even when their families were facing these fires like the rest of the community.
And so that speaks to the human connection that is
Absolutely.
pretty central to what Redwood is and what it does in the community. You and I speak a lot about digital. And in that context, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how has Redwood managed to maintain that engagement, that human connection, that trust level in a digital era?
Yeah, I think that we've asked that question several times. We were one of the first credit unions to start thinking about mobile first and everything digital. We started that back in 2011, and we started thinking about digital very differently. And one of the first questions we asked is, when you go into a branch and you're standing in line, you're grumpy, you're not having a great day, you go see that teller, they recognize you, and they take your check, get it deposited, help you with whatever you need. You always leave out smiling. And we started wondering, well, when somebody comes to our digital channel, do they leave our digital channel smiling? When they deposit a check, mobile deposit became a thing back in several years ago. And one of the first questions we asked, so if we do this mobile deposit, how do we make sure that experience is as good as it is in the branch? And so we purposely built our mobile deposit experience similar to the branch, in the sense that a lot of people were putting limits on how much you could deposit in mobile deposit. We said, well, why are you doing that? You're literally saying to the person who comes in digital, you're somehow less than what you can get in the branch. We want it to be as much or better. And so we didn't put limits on it. We actually used other tools to mitigate the risk. But we made sure they could actually deposit whatever size check they had, and make sure that at the end of that deposit, they were rewarded. And so we had this thing called confetti moments, where we said we wanted to have something wow. And so we had confetti drop when they finished a task like depositing a check, to make them feel good about what they'd just done. It wasn't just a transaction. This is their life. And so we wanted to have those moments that let them know they were important to us, they were special, and we were appreciative of them, doing their banking with us, whether it's digital or in person with a branch.
And aside from the joy that you've sought to bring into those experiences, we know also from the benchmarking that we do at iSky and at RFI that you're delivering an exceptional depth of self-service in those digital channels that you are affording to your customers. And whether it's in comparison to the big players here in the United States, or indeed in comparison to many of the providers that we benchmark across the globe, and many of our audience will have seen the experience that RCU offers. How is it that you've managed to bring that focus and bring that depth, given that comparatively you are not as big as the big guys?
Smaller. Yeah, a lot smaller than the big players. And one of the things that I think makes a difference, well, first of all, just having a tool like iSky to help us know, what are people offering? We were actually surprised when we first partnered with you all that we ranked so well. Now, we knew we had focused. We knew from the very beginning, we said anything we do in the branch, if it can be done on digital, we're going to make it digital. Now, in California, you can't do notary online. That's not a thing in California yet. And you can't do a safe deposit box unless it's digital, I guess. So we knew those two were off the table, but nothing else was off the table. And so we purposely started in 2013, 2014, making sure every single service was available digitally, not just to acquire it, but also to manage it and then disposition it, which I think is the biggest mistake a lot of players make. They want you to be able to obtain the service, but not necessarily manage the service or the product. And so we made a very purposeful decision that we were going to be different from that perspective. And so when you guys came along and we started evaluating ourselves against others, we were surprised to see how well we did. We also learned some valuable lessons, like just because you have it doesn't mean they can find it. That whole menu structure in the online and mobile, sometimes things get lost. And how you name things, I think that's one of the other things you helped us see, that we're naming things because we think they're cute names, but people don't really know that means you have a P2P solution, for instance.
Yeah.
So those were some of the decisions early on that we had to make that helped put us in a position to be successful like that.
So elephant in the room almost is that we know that there's a looming technology in AI, and it's shaping to change the way that we provide digital to customers, and also, of course, for an organization like yours, support your members going forward.
Yeah.
What do you see, what does Redwood see the role of AI in the Redwood experience going forward?
Yeah, we started thinking about this a long time ago. We had a knowledge base, a search like everybody else up in the corner. And then we had a chat down in the corner. Everybody seems to have that. And most people think, well, members come to your website, they want to search, and then they want to go to a page. You want to give them an FAQ. But that's not really what people want at all. What people want is an answer to the question, tell them how to do what they want to do, and get them to the place so they can do it. As I think about AI, I think that's an enabler to make that happen. And as I think about our experience with digital banking, just translate that, make it happen on the website, and then bring it right into digital banking. Somebody does not want to necessarily even log into your mobile or online banking at some point. At some point, what they want to do is say to Siri, hey Siri, or to hey Google, I need to transfer X dollars from my savings to my checking, or I want to pay this bill, or I want to do whatever. They want to have to go through the process of logging in and doing a look, and then they just want the system to take care of it for them. I think that's where we're headed. And certainly we're looking at technology to allow us to do that. We played around with Alexa, if you remember the voice for Alexa. I just can't imagine for the life of me somebody wanting to stand in their living room and say, hey, Alexa, what's my balance for everybody? I certainly want to do it because I don't want my wife to know how much I have in my tractor fund, which is a fund I set up to buy a new tractor, which is weird to say as a technologist. But, it's how do you personalize that experience with this assistant that enables you to do what you want to do on the fly without having to go through a bunch of extra hoops. That's really where I think AI is going.
So that reduction in friction and driving to the core. And to that thinking, obviously there's a dynamic shifting around what customers and members are thinking or needing when it comes to support around financial education, around wellness. How does Redwood address that? And again, how do you see that moving forward?
Yeah, financial well-being is a kind of core component for us. We have this purpose statement. We have a mission and vision like everybody else, but we also have a purpose statement. What's our why? And our why is to inspire hope for financial well-being in our communities, one person at a time. It guides everything we do. So when you think about your online banking experience, your digital experience, or your AI experience, for us, it's all centered on how do we ensure financial well-being in our communities and individually, because individuals live in the community. So if both are financially well. So that's not just in education, but it's in actual providing guidance. One of the best examples I can think of, it's not really a great example, but it is his example, is most people, want to move money to somebody. They don't necessarily know all the different ways they can do it. Think about all the different ways you can send me money. By the way, I can help you send me money. So just think about all the ways you can send me money. But wouldn't it be great if you could just go into your online banking or mobile banking or even speak to your system and say, hey, I need to send money, and can you help me do it? And instead of me trying to figure out, well, I want to do it via Zelle, Venmo, or Redwood Credit Union's P2P solution, it says, well, here's the cheapest, fastest way to get it to whoever.
Yep.
We have members who have family in Mexico, who have family in Argentina, who have family in the Philippines. They often want to send money to their family. And right now, if they did it via wire, it would cost them an exorbitant amount.
Yeah.
If they did it through Zelle, well, they can't really, because Zelle's only for the United States. They could kind of do it through Venmo, but it's not that effective. So what tools do we bring to bear that allows our members to do what they want to do? And then how do we teach them to do it the most effective way? That's where I think AI becomes kind of interesting, where it actually teaches them what the best tool to use, what's the least cost tool to use, and what's the fastest way to get that money to whoever you want to get it to in the safest way possible.
Right. And so that decision making in the moment hopefully will improve, but I think you also alluded to safety.
Yeah, fraud and security, absolutely.
Right. So that dynamic is, again, shifting so much at the moment.
Fast.
And we're seeing, at the same time, a lot of control being pushed upstream to empower customers to create a risk dynamic that they want or they hope to have. How's Redwood grappling with this shifting dynamic in the market at the moment around security?
Yeah, like a lot of people, we're providing the ability for them to set up alerts, set up limits, set up, a lot of controls within their account. But it's a two-sided coin. On the one side, you've got the member wanting to make sure that they have risk control of their account and security around their account. But on the other hand, you have the financial institution that has to make sure that they're really the person that they say they are, and that they're a sound person doing the work. In other words, Do I have a risk profile on that individual? It says, based on my relationship with you, I'm going to give you more access to send more of your money at any given time. And based on your experience, you've sent money repeatedly to the same person every month. Well, then you should be able to send more if you decide one month you need to send more. So do you limit it based on, and I know a lot of the P2P systems have limits, but they're fairly arbitrary. Wouldn't it be nice if they were personalized based on your profile, based on how well I know you, and based on your history with the credit union? That's kind of what we're looking at. And then how do you give the member control of some of that to be able to say, hey, I'm ready to send more. And for us, one of the areas we do that with is on your ATM card. We give you ability to set limits, but we also give you the ability to boost your limit. And we use multi-factor, obviously, authentication and some other tools to ensure that it's really you who's need that boost in access to your funds.
We've also talked in the past about how Redwood has a great ear for listening to its members, and it really does seek to put that at the core of its decision making. Can you talk to us a little bit about, in particular in the context of digital, how member feedback has shaped your roadmap, your priorities for what you're delivering in those channels?
Yeah, that's probably when you go all the way back, 2015, 2016, we put this system in called Total Member Experience, or TME. It's really a system where our staff can enter ideas into a solution that they then get to vote. All the staff get a vote, and they get a comment. And we get those ideas from, feedback on Facebook, on, X, on the App Store, but also just our staff being the member, using the tools. Friends and family telling them, hey, your app could do better if it had XYZ, fill in the blank. They enter that in, everybody gets the vote, everybody gets a comment, and because of that, we get this wealth of ideas. And so every year we have probably 200 ideas that we innovate on and put into our systems to incrementally improve it. And we've been doing that now for about 10 years. So we've had a lot of time to incrementally improve our system. Where we're at now, though, is at this kind of inflection moment, because AI is going to change everything. And as you think about just how much people are putting into their mobile app, the number of functionalities that are available at any given mobile app today, how do people find the thing that they're looking for effectively? How do you make that experience seamless, frictionless, and more important, just intuitive? Don't make them think. They should just know how to do it. When they go in, oh, I know how to do this. That's the struggle we're at right now. And it's exciting, but it's also very challenging.
Yeah. And speaking of that challenge, if I can ask you to sort of gaze into the crystal ball a little bit, think ahead into the years in the future. Community organizations like Redwood, you're in an increasingly competitive landscape, and particularly when you're pitted against the larger organizations.
Right.
How are organizations like Redwood going to continue to be able to differentiate themselves in that diversity of digital,
right,
and remain, engaged with our members in that dynamic?
Yeah, for us, it's all about service. It's all about that personalized experience. It's about making sure that we're meeting the members exactly where they're at and with what they need. So it's knowing the member effectively. I think that's one of the areas where we can actually do a much better job than some of the big shops. They're going to have the money to spend on technology, but are they doing it in a way that's actually meeting the actual need of the member, of their consumer? And for us, that becomes kind of pivotal in everything we do, so that, like, for instance, we decided that we wanted to do a better job of providing business services to our business members. And so 3 years ago, we're already the number one SBA lender in the San Francisco region, which is weird to say, a credit union our size being number one SBA lender. But we are. But we weren't offering any of the other services that businesses needed. So we worked with our digital partner and decided we're going to build a whole new set of digitalized tools, digital first tools for businesses to manage their business, from treasury management services to merchant services. And we did it within our online banking system. And we didn't make the member have to log into their personal account and then separately log into their business account. It's just one login. It's just your login. And then once you're in, you can toggle and decide what you want to do and how you want to manage those two types of account. Well, we've seen 16% growth in business as soon as we started doing that. Not because we had better technology necessarily, not because we had everything that they would possibly could look for, because there are big banks doing stuff we're not doing. but it's because we had service, and we were doing service in a way that the big banks aren't, nor any of the regional banks really. So it was just a differentiation in how we serve the member that made the difference in why they would choose us over anybody else at this point.
We've touched on a number of different themes: AI, security.
Bounced around a little bit.
We have, yeah. Are there any topics, or even customer behaviors, technological evolutions, shifting approaches in the industry? Anything that you think that is not perhaps getting center stage at the moment in the same way that it maybe should, given what it is or what it could be in the financial services landscape?
Yeah, I think there's probably three areas that are bouncing around, and this is just kind of off the top of my head. One, I think what financial services providers are finding is there's this layering effect of cost. So as you're trying to compete with specialized fintech, big bank, other credit unions and banks, you're layering cost on top of cost when you buy different pieces of technology and stitch it together, which is by and large how a lot of people do it. They buy the best of breed over here, this thing over there. Oh, we found this tool that members really like. Let's add that in. And each of those things add an incremental cost. Well, that's getting to a point where it's not sustainable for an organization. So that's the first thing that's starting to shift in the landscape. The second thing is just the bloat that's happening in mobile and digital banking. The problem is you need to have the functionality that the members are looking for. Otherwise, they're going to be disinfranchised or disintermediated by going to other services. And certainly we're seeing that with not so much the pressure from big banks, but the pressure from small fintechs who are coming up with these niche ideas that actually make a difference. And then how do you integrate something similar or something that's like that without bloating your system to where it's no longer, they can never find anything they want?
Yeah.
And then the third thing is the emergence of different forms of payment and different types of digital currency. So obviously, the Genius Act with stablecoin is going to change how we interact with money. The question is, at what point will it gain enough momentum that the average consumer wants to use it? Today, it's not there. And if I had to look at my crystal ball, I'd say we're 5 years out. But I'd probably in a minority. I think a lot of people think, oh my gosh, we got to have it tomorrow. The question is, what is it? And what is it that the credit union's offering to a person who needs to use a cryptocurrency or a token to pay something? What is it that we're offering them? Are we offering them a stable coin that we issue? Are we offering them a wallet? Are we offering them what is it that we're actually offering that makes sense to that consumer? So I do think there's going to be a lot of change coming, certainly in the payments area. I think we're going to see some change, and certainly in how people interact with technology, given our discussion earlier with AI. Those are, in my mind, those are kind of the big three that are happening right now.
Yeah. Tony, it's always a pleasure hearing your thoughts and insights. Appreciate your time. To our audience, it's a great learning always to be able to sit with Tony and discuss what's going on in digital. So thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully we didn't get too far off the beaten track.
We did well, I think.
Good.
Thanks so much, Tony.
Thank you.